This is a 5-page letter WZZM just received today from Michael David Elliot. He's the Ionia prison escapee and convicted murderer who just returned to Michigan yesterday after dropping his extradition fight.
Elliot addressed the letter to WZZM 13's Hannah Saunders after she corresponded with him. Hannah requested information on the jail escape, and she has some of what's in the letter in this 13 on Your Side Watchdog reports.
The letter is well written, 5 pages of proper grammar, good penmanship, and a demonstration of extensive research Elliot has done on the criminal justice system. In the letter, he shares more details on his escape, writing, "I have been fighting my case for 20 years or so, and the courts just have failed to look at the evidence fairly. After all that time of no one listening, I decided to free myself."
Are you ever going to try to escape again?
Elliot wants to speak to us, but all of our requests for interviews and phone conversations have been denied. This is the first time he's been able to write to us. "I only get an hour to write, brush my teeth, and shower each day," he says. "I'll try to remember and answer all your questions from the first letter that disappeared." We are also learning more about his family's violent past and how he was raised to not trust the justice system. Elliot also admits to carrying guns and associating with the wrong people as a teenager, something he says didn't help when he went to trial. "I looked bad," he said, "but I never killed anyone." And there is much more in that letter that has not been heard before. We have only had this letter in our possession for a few hours today, and before we release any more of what it says, we want to take this time to confirm some of what's said and give you the most accurate information. We've heard it before.
I'm innocent. Totally innocent? Yes.
And now prison escapee Michael David Elliot is hoping to use his recent media attention to clear himself of 4 murder convictions from 20 years ago. His plan, he writes to us, is to seek help through the executive and not the judicial branch by way of a pardon from the governor. But even if that happened, Elliot would have to face more time for escaping and kidnapping. "Even in my desperation to be free, I never caused anyone any physical harm," he says. And for the first time, he shares details from his drive to Indiana with his hostage. "I went out of my way to make sure this woman was not in any more fear than the situation itself presented. I told her repeatedly that I had absolutely no intention whatsoever in harming her." Elliot says he made small talk to keep his hostage calm. "I asked her about her family, husband, and daughter, things she did for fun, computer games, and what in her mind she was really missing that evening on account of my interruption. Anything important?" She said no.
I'm hostage to an escaped candidate from the Ionia correctional facility.
You're being held hostage?
Yes.
Elliot was surprised when his hostage locked herself in a gas station bathroom. She lied about having a cell phone, he writes.
He has a hammer?
And a box cutter.
Elliot writes he had no choice but to leave her behind. "I felt something was wrong. As I pulled off, cops were on the way with sirens flashing. I never would have hurt that lady or anyone else." And he repeats, "I never killed anyone." Elliot uses much of this letter to proclaim his innocence, as we've heard him say before, but additionally more about his family's violent history, which led him to becoming a criminal. Michael David Elliot grew up a criminal, he writes, all beginning at the age of 1.5 when his father was murdered. The police and courts did nothing, and when someone did get convicted, the case was reversed 30 days later, so I grew up not trusting or cooperating with police or the court system. I was made a ward of the state due to neglect around 15 years old. I did some crimes as a juvenile, along with alcohol and drug abuse. I carried guns since it was common in my circle of associates and had been shot at as a teen. So when I went to trial in '93, I looked bad, I'm sure. Elliot and his family tell me he made himself a legal advisor to other inmates. He spent his 20 years in prison studying up on criminal justice, and he asks in his letter to look into the possible wrong conviction of another inmate. By the way, another case near you involves actual innocence. He then writes a half a page with the details. I was trying to help him, but he got moved to another facility before my escape. He then asks, whatever help you can offer to bring attention to my innocence is greatly appreciated. I'll write again or call soon. Sincerely, Michael.